What it do. Welcome to the Intentional Conversations podcast, where we get to talk about life, faith, culture, and everything in between. And I'm here chilling with the main man.
Yo, what's good?
Mr. Marvin
What is up?
Kimani. Brother man, it's been an interesting time. And I've been reflecting quite a lot as well around church and around millennials.
Bro, you don't care how I'm doing, bro. First ask me how I'm doing, bro.
Oh man,
I know. My feelings are hurt. Like,
I know that 2021 hit and did all the blows to you. I'm just scared that you're gonna be like, you're gonna tell me all your worries about 2020, man.
Guys, I don't know if people know you're married, dude.
People know I'm married.
Okay.
All the people that need to know.
How's marriage like?
All the people that need to know if I'm married.
We're gonna do a podcast on marriage soon, guys.
Do you know how private?
You're gonna give us.
Do you know how hard it was for me to post our wedding pictures?
It was hard.
It was very hard because people were like, "Yo, when are you posting your wedding pictures?" And
it's not official until it's on Facebook.
Yes, and I was like, yeah, well, I'm just, dude,
but you're lucky, bro. Was it people posting your pictures before you? Like, because I have friends who, like, people were posting the pictures that they took and they hadn't posted theirs. Did you
I feel like that would have been great. I mean,
really? You'd have.
So that happened. That did happen.
Okay.
That did happen. I am worried about so many things in our culture, especially like stuff on marriage, you know, and I think...
that's a whole podcast in itself.
That's a whole...
Bro,
we're trying to be very like careful around the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I do think stuff like that is great. And yes, marriage is great.
Hallelujah.
I think we are very aware that not everyone who's saying congratulations means congratulations.
Oof.
You know,
Listen.
but like big moments like that, obviously everyone writes congratulations.
That is a podcast, bro. Just remember, that is a podcast. We had some good conversations on this.
That's why I have decided not to bring it up.
Okay, we digress.
I just say my wife. You know, it feels cool to say that.
Shout out.
Soon it will be you.
Hallelujah. I claim
you just need to get. He's single,
Jesus'
ladies
name.
and gentlemen. 2021, maybe the relationship
they're only gonna get this later, so you don't know, bro.
I mean, he's even got the beard, guys.
Don't.
Marvin has been wanting to cut this beard of his. If you're watching on a video right now, he's been wanting to cut this beard of his. And I've been saying, bro,
we should put those polls up. You know,
this
those polls
is where your anointing is.
Cut the beard or not.
Anyway, let's jump into it. Church and millennials. Two things that me and you are both passionate about.
Yes.
I think, I want to name this topic, why millennials struggle with church. And I feel like my big part, my own personal story is that I relate with this quite a lot. I know you are very passionate about church, and you're very passionate about our people. You're really passionate about millennials. But I guess we were in a global pandemic. And because we're in a global pandemic, everything kind of moved online, you know? You found rappers or musicians or artists having exhibitions, shows online, you know? The world was kind of put on a standstill, and we all realized that, hey, there's this thing called the internet, you know? Every second day there was someone doing a live thing, live conversations. Great and amazing stuff. Yeah. But it also meant that churches went online.
Yes.
And I remember speaking to you, and you felt some kind of way about it. You very, I don't want to label you.
Label me, bro.
But you found it super tricky and super hard.
Yeah.
Why?
Bro, I feel like, and maybe because I'm used to normal physical church, right? So that was part of it. I feel like a part of me, as much as I would say I'm a loner and like I like my own space and all this, a part of me does like, or is used to being around people, especially, you know, when we're worshiping, singing songs to God, you know. And so I couldn't connect in the same way. And so I think that's where the struggle was coming from. I think I got used to it to some point and I started enjoying it. And I don't know if we're going to get into that part, but the struggle was basically that. It was like what I'm used to, and then now this big change, and I'm supposed to be okay with like being online and, you know. But yeah, definitely.
But what did you enjoy?
There was pluses, bro. There was pluses. There was like not waking up early.
Yes.
You know, that's my lazy. That's my lazy self speaking.
Hallelujah to that. I agree. I relate.
Okay, not waking up early, bro. I was waking up, taking out my laptop, putting it there, getting a cup of coffee. I'm sitting, you know. Also, I felt like there was also a plus in being alone with God, and yeah, I think, you know, you'd have your devotions or whatever. But then now here it's a service, it's a conducted service, if I may put it that way. You know, there's things that is going on online. You know, when it's worship or singing songs, then you worship and singing songs alone in your room. And there's a special thing to that too, you know? There's something special, something to be said about that as well. As much as, like, you know, I love the communal thing, singing songs to God or praying and what's the name in your room through the service has something special there as well. You know, so I enjoyed that. I think those two things are.
Do you think, you know, there was always this big conversations in Christian circles around this thing called quiet time, you know? And so, you know, quiet time, and some people are for and some people are against. And I obviously love those type.
There's people who are against.
Yes, and they've got scriptural arguments for that. And so the people that do, because both of these could lead to a toxic culture, you know? And so it's like, hey, the mark of a true Christian is if you do this, that, and this. And so some people saying, hey, actually, if we look at the scriptures, Jesus retreated, you know.
Yes.
But you know, it's one verse, you know. It's like, if you look at the New Testament, besides the Gospels, you know, obviously the writers emphasize prayer, they emphasize communion, they emphasize issues of social justice or social ills, giving, and community. But it's not like, hey, every morning I
sit down,
have my cup of coffee and I read a chapter a day type of a thing. But actually what you find with Christianity, what I've found is, and in specific, you know, sectors, is kind of this kind of individualistic thing, you know. It's kind of, I have my time with me and Jesus, and then I do people, you know, or like I have my time with me and Jesus, and maybe that's when I read or I pray or I sing. But now we put into a global pandemic, and it's you're alone, or you have people on WhatsApp or on social media, and I wonder if that fed into our individualism in a sense.
Ooh.
And so in a sense of, am I making sense?
Yeah, totally.
So it's like we prioritize this quiet time, this alone time, you know? And I'm not saying we shouldn't. I think we should. I think we should prioritize it. But I find that it became such a culture. Like this was the way for you to grow with Jesus. And then now it's great if it's worked for you, but it's not a universal law. But actually now we're thrown into a global pandemic where we are alone. And then now those same people are saying, hey, stop being individualistic, come to church. You know what I'm saying? Like stop being individualistic, like prioritize community, you know? But actually in our prioritizing quiet time, I think we end up prioritizing a you and Jesus relationship. Because if I read a couple of chapters and I know all the Christian verses, I'm a mature Christian. And I'm like, well, I mean, I think it's part of it, but not
the full thing.
Not all of it. Like,
I think I fell into that trap early on in my walk with Jesus, bro. I think as a new Christian trying to figure out this thing, I thought by doing my duty almost. You know what I'm saying? I can put it that way because that's how I was doing it. You know, like, oh, I've read these chapters, I've prayed, doom, I'm tick that box. I'm good. That's what it requires. I think there was blessing in by the grace of God, there was blessing in that discipline. But I remember just very vividly just being like, God being like, yo, but you're missing me. Right? You've done, you know the scripture, but you're missing me, you know? And so it's interesting, bro, that the way you put it there, that we are calling, or the local church is calling people back to community and stuff, but it's always been this emphasis, because I haven't thought about it that way. I think it's valid. I think it's very valid that people feel some type of way.
So I think I'd love to hear your thoughts on online church, because I was listening during lockdown, I went home. I went to the Eastern Cape to be with my family. Obviously, because I didn't know it was going to be for so long and all of that. I was listening to this American pastor who was speaking about how his church has grown with Corona. Now, obviously, this whole thing was speaking about how churches should be online. Like, it's so important. And how churches before Corona were trying to get stuff online, to reach as many people. And I understand there's a whole evangelistic element to it. But now this pastor, which was great, was speaking about how his church has grown, not 10, not 50%, not 100%, 300%.
Wow.
And how we equated that growth was with, a metric was with giving. And how life groups were kind of being multiplied and put together. Now, obviously, online church had grown rapidly. My biggest issue, if I could have one, my issue isn't valid. It's just my personal thing. Is that I think what it does is that it drives us to American Christianity or American evangelism, whatever people...
Whatever label.
Actually, what happens is the online church space will lead us to the best production, will lead us to the best speakers and preachers, will lead us to what is displayed and put as nicely, right? Now, I'm not to say South African churches are not there, but there's just so much more in America. So it was hard for me to find good local stuff. There was a lot, but it's just that you'd mostly find
the giants.
You find the giants, you find America. I mean, they've been putting stuff on TV. Like, what has been one thing for you with kind of the whole online church and, people being in different locations but being connected to this church via YouTube? Like, how does that even how does that land on you?
Yeah, bro, I think I have a love for the local church, and it's been a challenge. It's been both good and bad when I'm thinking about this this person attends our church on a general level, and then now there's this lockdown, it's online, and he has all these options, and they decide they're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4 different pastors on a day, right? The way it lands on me is like, look, I'm not sure who the pastors or what congregation this person is watching, and how biblical they are, or how in line with scripture they are, right? So there's that I'm not sure who's they watching, there's that. But there's also actually it maybe shows this person the global church, right? Because sometimes we can be very inward focused, my church, this is forgetting God is working, on a bigger scale. And I think so it's been like that. It's both, think about it as both, good and bad, my perspective on it. Because there's that, you're almost church hopping online, and so I'm I'm not sure the church that you just hopped to, kind of vibe. And I'm also at the same time, you get to expose to a different way of doing church, or a different way of bringing the Bible out, So it's both.
So, I mean, there's so many great pros and cons.
I know you were struggling. I remember you saying this, and I don't know if you want to go there, but
definitely.
Yeah, you were struggling. You want to give kind of just what exactly? Because I know what you were saying to me, but maybe for somebody who doesn't know, what were you struggling with specifically?
So, I mean, I love the local church. I'm very much involved in the local church. It was very awkward to me. I even preached a couple of times online.
You did.
I did a couple of sermons online for people in my church, I love church and the local church, where I fellowship, where I serve, and the people that I'm with. I really do. But I really struggled with online church,
Yeah, you did.
And I think I struggled with online church. Attention span is very little, firstly, number one. Number two, I think the transition of preaching in front of a crowd to preaching on a screen, I think it needs you to you don't preach or speak the same in front of people than you do in front of a camera.
Yeah.
Like, for example, we're in front of a camera now.
Yeah.
And maybe it's easier because I'm speaking to someone, but I do think we have to find creative ways and elements to be able to speak. And I think as a millennial, like, you can go on a tangent and I'm just feel like, I'm bored. Pause. Like, let me go see someone else. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like
I'll come back.
Yeah, like I'll come back if I have to, or like I you know. And so I feel like I felt a lot of it was stuff was good and stuff, but I would just lose most of it. And I just think my reflection, part of it was like, I think if we're doing stuff online, like we need to be able to grab people, be a lot more punchier, and story tell a lot more better.
Okay.
Like we need to give people the narrative, kind of make people follow.
Okay.
And every week or every whatever, there's someone who's new who doesn't know what that thing says or what that did or what that whatever says. If we are going to reach people,
if we're going to go
and if
online.
you're actually watching American stuff, they do that very well. Like they do that very well. Hence, you can just go watch anything and you just like hooked,
captured,
you know.
Yeah.
So I found that was kind of part of my issue. But I think what I was saying to you is that I felt a lot of what I struggled with was like I'm very consumeristic, and so if I don't like it, I switch off.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, I switch off. If I don't like it, I switch off. It's like with music.
Yeah.
If I don't like your raps, I don't have to listen to you.
Like, you're the first person who told me you don't listen to whole albums. I was like, what? You skip to the ones that you like. And I'm like, but it's an album. It's put together.
Well, yes. So
but I get it.
What I generally do is I'll listen to an album once or twice.
Yeah.
Then I delete the ones I don't like. Then I listen to the ones I like. Because there's no point listening to the songs you like. You're just kind of wasting your time. You know?
I got you.
But I felt like part of what I think I had an issue with was, personally, is that we treat church as a consumer. You know, so if you don't give me what I want, I'm not gonna stay.
Yeah.
If I don't get what I want, I'm not gonna stay. And that for me was very hard. And so I think with that I had to like practice how to be present. Yes, I was following the stuff in my local trust, but I had to like intentionally practice to be part and to be in. But remember, because we're so individualistic and it's me and Jesus, I can do whatever I want and you can do whatever I want, and then we could...
And it's fine.
And then it's fine. Like we chat on the WhatsApp group, which is boring, you know, because like everything had kind of like moved online.
Yes.
And so it's like, hey, figuring out how do we like live lives that are not individualistic and that are really community driven. And I longed for that.
So bro, you're not anti-online though. You are pro-online.
I'm pro-online.
Okay.
110%.
I feel like I am anti-online. Because I don't think that's how it's supposed to be, bro. I feel it feeds into that individualistic thing and there's nothing you can do. Consumerism, individualistism, if that's a word, that's not a word, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Those two things, there's nothing you can do about those things. Because people are people, right? And so as long as this thing is online, I got choices. One, right? As long as this thing is online, I don't like this person, or I don't like what you said next, right? And it also kind of, so some people have reduced church to watching sermons online.
Yeah,
and I know you have views on how we've blown up a sermon and what we think a sermon is or supposed to do. And I don't know, we're probably not going to go this too long.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? I just feel I'm anti in a very like, I'm open, but like really anti. You know me, bro.
You are very you're very kind of strict, and I think that's great. But so what would you say to so why are you anti? And give me your understanding and your view of what you perceive the local church should be like.
So those two things I said, there's like nothing I can see that we can do as long as church is going to go online that's going to fight individualism and consumerism. The other thing is, I feel like the local church or the church should look like the book of Acts, or at least strive to, right? And so how do you do, like we were doing communion online, bro, and it's like somebody's that side, and then we're watching the screen and we're like, you know, and just, I feel like I don't see that in Acts, right? Okay, that's one. The other thing is
I
like
mean, you're not, because there wasn't like
there
cell
wasn't,
phones.
but even if there was, right? Because I mean, they could have said in Acts, it could have said, "You do communion in your house, I'll do it in mine at this time." Right? Because you know what I'm saying? Because they would pray, they would go from house to pray. They could have said, "No, yo, bro, at this time, let's all pray at our houses at this time." Right? But they didn't. It was like they would move. They would come to your house, go to the other person's house. You know.
I could
So it's
argue,
those
but
two-
I'm not, for the sake of
No,
the
no.
podcast.
Yeah. So I'm answering your question. I think it's interesting. I'd like to hear your side, bro. But I think it's kind of revolves around that. Just the fact that we can't fight those two things that I mentioned: individualism, consumerism, and the fact that we can't really look like the church we see in Acts or how they practiced it. If we say let's go online, because it's also that thing of reducing church to like a sermon, because that's what basically you do online. I don't know what else happens online. It's like a sermon, you sing a couple songs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then that's church.
I think for me, the vision of church I would have when I really look at the scriptures has been, we gather to scatter. We gather as the people of God to remind ourselves of God, which speaks of our sin, our need for
that's good, man.
our need for God's intervention in our lives and in this world.
Yeah.
I think that's how we worship God.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Together.
Together. And then we gather together to scatter. And as we scatter, we gather.
Yes.
Right? To come back and gather. Now, when I look at that, and so I find gathering very important, and I find the scattering just as important. I think sometimes what has happened is that we gather to control.
Hey.
And
Speak on it.
And so what we find is that like this is the way and this is the only way. Hence, obviously, with church history, so many denominations. Yeah, well.
Got you.
And yes, there's some wacky stuff and there's some like awkward stuff out there. And I wonder like who's to judge?
To always be with us.
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate, but I think gathering is very important. Yeah, but I think gathering is very important. But actually, in this point of time, just because of how humans are, how things are, and the world is at the moment, we are gathering in very different ways. Who knew that me and you would be? I didn't video call anyone a year ago.
Facts.
Anyone.
Yeah.
Not even my lady. Anyone.
Yeah.
Like if you video called me,
It's weird.
I would cancel your call, bro.
He's making a mistake right now. He
Right?
meant, yeah.
And now, like that's all we do. Like now, we don't even do phone calls. We do Zoom calls. Even when, and I don't know. When I'm just kind of looking at like how humans are, I look at how businesses have transitioned, how business deals and business meetings are happening. Then people are no longer gathering, but humans are still feeling connected.
Are we?
That fascinates me.
Are we though, bro?
That fascinates me. And so I think here's the thing though. Humans might not be.
Okay.
But it also doesn't mean because they're going to church they are. Because
Valid.
even in church, like there's
Valid.
sub-cliques and
Totally
there's
valid.
those are the good ones. Those are the
People who come in and leave because
there's
there's
people who come in and leave. People don't feel connected. Like some churches have to work twice as hard to like make sure people feel connected.
Super valid.
And because of that, there's a culture that's created. If you don't speak like this or dress that way or like this or like that or like that,
you are out.
you are out. And I mean, it gives us all good stuff to work with to build the church that God is calling us to. But it doesn't mean that that's the only way. Now, I'm not saying people should like plant online churches or whatever. You know, like to each their own.
Plant online.
like to each their own. Like people must do as they feel God was calling them to be.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's all bad. I don't think it's all bad. And I think people need to choose where they land around it. But what fascinates me is millennials and authority. Let's talk about authority. So what happens in church, that's why I'm saying sometimes, people gather to scatter, but sometimes with gathering, we control.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would say, don't do that, do that. I grew up in that kind of context.
Yes,
you don't watch
yes.
these type of movies, don't listen to that type of music.
Those
You don't
don'ts.
go to those type of places. You don't. You felt like your life was filled with don'ts.
Don'ts, yeah.
Even if you don't put don'ts, there are don'ts
there's a way
because of the culture
Yes.
that is created. I'm very fascinated, especially black millennials. I can't speak about white millennials because I'm not white.
Yeah.
And authority, especially when it comes to church, and especially when they break out of the mode that they are in and they get to explore and maybe get to choose churches for themselves if they can.
Yeah.
Né? What do you think is the link between how we view authority and how and why we leave church? I know we leave church for many reasons. But what do you think is like the relationship between authority and church?
Bro, I think you touched on it. I think it's that don'ts thing. I think because there's don'ts that are not really biblical, don'ts that are societal, don'ts that are traditional, don'ts that are, just like personal. Maybe that pastor, preacher, leader, person in authority has his own don'ts and he puts it on you. And then as a millennial, you travel, you get to see something else, and you're like, oh, wow, this is not even,
Yeah.
And because of that, there's hurt as well. You know what I'm saying? From that, there's hurt that can come from that. And I know for a fact, like, millennials are anti-establishment in general. Like, we are just like, yo, bro, like, don't give me this big...
Don't put me on to that big. I want to kind of create
boxing
my own.
me, bro,
Yeah.
We're already like that. So...
and don't you think online is thriving because of that?
Partially, yes. Yes, I do. Totally. I can see why. I can see why. I can see why. I think I usually tend to look at like the negatives easily, right? But I can see why it would thrive because of that, yeah. So I think to answer your question is that the abuse of those don'ts. Because to be clear, there is don'ts in the Bible, right? But there is an abuse of those don'ts. I think because of that, this hurt has come out from that and just like, yo, that is not, what I'm about kind of thing. And people have just, millennials, black millennials, just like, bro, I know stories that you maybe are privy to where, don't date, do not. And no shade on anyone, but that has led somebody to be like, oh, go the other way, you know? And so...
So speak to me, Marvin. I'm a millennial, as I am, who is struggling with church.
Yeah.
I am anti-establishment, not in the sense that I'm anti. I've just been so hurt and disappointed. Maybe I come from a family or structure that just kind of people overuse their powers.
Yeah.
And I struggle with church. And so actually going online
is better.
So helpful for me.
Yeah.
What do you say to me?
I would firstly just pray for you and pray with you, because I think that your hurt and whatever has come, the reason you are where you are is because something has happened, and I want to be sensitive to that. I don't just want to say, no, you should go back to church, although that's my inclination, right? To be like boxes, right? Like, yo, yeah, no, it's fine, but just... And so firstly, pray and pray with you and pray for you, and also just kind of go through the scriptures with you and show you, okay, here's why we do this church thing like this, right? This is where it has come from, right? Yeah. So bring understanding of where I see the importance of church.
Yeah.
And then leave it there, right? Yeah. I think it's natural for me to be like, yo, no, bro, let's go back, do this. That's where I naturally lean towards, but I don't think that's helpful in a situation like that, And also, case by case, bro, there's people who, again, and, no shade to anyone, but there's people who just don't want church for the sake of church. So they'll say things like, no, there's people who are like this there, right?
Yeah.
But they are putting expectations on what people in the church are supposed to be or be like, you know what I'm saying? So individual, case by case. I try and be sensitive to whatever hurt, whatever
I got you.
person.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to struggle, and I think we all struggle. I struggled a lot. Yeah. I was thinking I was going to tell a bit of my story.
If we have time, bro, I would like to.
I mean, we don't, but I really struggled with church. I firstly, when I read the New Testament, I didn't see it like, I didn't see it strictly like as they see it. But I grew to understand. I think what connected me and made me love church was the people. As much as I struggled with it, I realized that for me to grow, I need people. And actually, it's so freeing when there's real people who care about my real issues, but are willing to walk with me through my yak and my mess. And I realized the power of coming every single Sunday, singing songs about God and then just feeling like my soul and my life was encouraged.
Fresh.
So I mean, I could get into deeper, but I won't. But I felt like for me that was so helpful. And everyone wants to belong, and I found like at church you could.
Yeah.
You don't have to do much, if people are really preaching, the kind of the gospel. And so for me, I found it so freeing. And I'm a loose screw, in the sense of like I'm just.
You'd rather.
I'm a loose screw in the sense of like I want to make up on my own mind.
Yes.
And I'm glad my parents could allow me to do that when they kind of got out the church system thing.
Yeah.
And so I really was like issues and like this and that. Like, why does this happen and why does it not happen? Why does this happen and why does it not happen? Until I think I struggled whilst going to church until I felt kind of like, okay, wow.
Was your leaders open to that? Because I think that's a blessing, the fact that you're questioning and still, questioning in that. Because people question, they leave, then they start questioning.
Yeah, I was blessed in the sense of I approach leaders that I could question.
Oof.
But that's also just like my personality. Maybe that's how I just am. I'm just like, I just like, I was speaking to like my pastor from a couple of years ago, and he just said, the first conversation you had, you were just grilling me on like what I believe. And I was
this is in high school?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, actually, yeah, that's true. Like, because I felt like if I'm going to be under you, I must know what you think and what you believe about specific stuff that I know.
Yeah.
But maybe that's also just my millennial side to me,
it is.
Like I won't do that to my dad.
Yeah. There's lines, there's levels.
Like there's levels to this.
Yeah.
And so, and I think also maybe my theology and where I was leaning at the time theologically led me to be able to want to ask those questions. So, but maybe now I think maybe because I've been doing the kind of the stuff for much more longer, I can navigate all of those seasons a bit better. And I'm very much more open and loose than I was maybe a couple more years ago.
Yeah. My heart goes out, bro. It goes out to those who can't do that, bro. Because I know that is it hurts. Like millennials who can't, like you can't question the man of God, you can't.
And that's the type of churches we came from, bro.
It's
Ooh, I've
seen the devastation, bro. I've seen the other side of it. I didn't grow up in that, but I've seen the other side of it. I've seen the guys who've come out of that and just the pain that comes from that, the confusion that comes from that. Hey, bro.
Yeah, or just being able to say, "Hey, pastor, like what do you mean about this? But when you say this, but what about that?" And for me, that was so helpful because, and doing it in a respectful manner.
Yeah.
Always doing it. But for me, it was helpful because I'm like, I can't read this and then you say that, but we mean two different things. Because then, if that's what you believe, I want to know how you got there and what makes you like believe that. So a couple of years ago, I know we're going longer, but a couple of years ago, it was kind of spiritual gifts, like.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, hey man, people are believing and saying different things. And I'm like, what's poppin'?
Yeah.
But for me, getting to understand both sides was so helpful because I was trying to grow and journey myself. And that was just kind of part of it. And if you are believing, like how days ago, if you believed a specific thing, then you were not a Christian. And I was like, no, man.
Yeah, and you're not a robot.
And I was like, no, man. Yeah. But anyway.
Guys, you've been watching Living Legacies, Intentional Conversations podcast with myself, Marvin Kimani, and my dude, my maestro.
Why don't you say my name? He's so struggling.
Luxolo Kentane himself.
You're trying. You're getting there.
Hey, bro, I got the click. That's what matters.
50% there.
Join us for the next one. Share this with your friends, share this with everybody. Let's grow the platform together.
Love y'all.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching or listening to our podcast. Why don't you consider just helping us do this more, create content to help people live a life outside of themselves. You can do that by following us on social media, YouTube, all those good things. But specifically consider going on our Patreon and supporting us financially, so we can grow the movement, so we can help more people just live for God, live better lives. Thank you.